Hello and welcome to Rising. We have another great show for you today. Robbie, what do we have?
Andrew Feldman and Rachel Bovard are in for Team Rising. We will discuss the letter from the NIH that confirms EcoHealth Alliance violated the terms and conditions of a grant over gain of function back in 2018. And friend of the show, Matt Taibbi, discusses the resurgence of a deep state within American intelligence agencies. But first, CDC Director Rochelle Walensky said schools are to continue masking children even if they are vaccinated during a recent press conference. She said that. Let's take a look.
Yeah, maybe just picking up on that, after we have authorization from FDA and recommendations from CDC, we will be working to scale up pediatric vaccination. That said, it will take some time. And as I just noted, as we head into these winter months, we know we cannot be complacent. We also know that from previous data that schools that have had masks in place were 3.5 times less likely to have school outbreaks requiring school closure. So right now we are going to continue to recommend masks in all schools for all people in those schools, and we will look forward to scaling up pediatric vaccination during this period of time.
This comes as the White House unveiled yesterday its plans for vaccinating kids ages 5 to 11. Which, again, I'm all for giving families that option to vaccinate their kids. I don't know that it's essential, but they should absolutely be allowed to do it. But they're going to have the masks on anyway. And
that's not actually what I got from that. Did you?
That's what I got. What do you mean?
So what I heard her saying was, we're going to start the vaccination process soon.
Right.
We have the winter months coming. Data shows masks are effective at reducing the spread. And so we're going to continue masking.
Right.
I didn't hear her say that they were going to continue masking after vaccination. Is that how it's been reporting?
Yeah, because they're not. Yes, because they're not going to have every kid vaccinated because they're not. The vaccination rate for kids will not be as high as it was for other population groups because some families are going to opt not to do that. Not for and again, not for totally unreasonable reasons. Kids are at very, very low risk. Mm-hmm. I do think that should be a family decision. But we're like the whole "we can't be complacent" line has just been deployed so often now. Now is not the time to let up. Can you imagine? I can imagine Rochelle Walensky or whoever is the head of the CDC director, like 100 years from now, saying now's not the time to let up on masking. There was that brief window in like May of this year where they finally conceded, okay, we really want you to, but I guess we cannot. There's no scientific basis to recommend it at this point. But then they got to revise
it. A week later, Delta went up by like 300%.
They're like, shoo, okay, yeah. Back to masks.
Slap the masks back on. No, I hope that people are misinterpreting that because that's not how I read it, but it would be in line, I guess, with what the CDC has been advising more generally, if that is what they're saying. So, yeah, if you're a child and you've gotten a vaccine, making you wear a mask in school for another 6 or 7 hours, even after getting vaccinated, seems cruel and pointless. So I certainly hope that they don't go forward with that.
I wonder if there's going to be any. So obviously, some of the crazier things people say about masks are not true. Like, no, the masks don't spread disease. I've heard that line before. I do wonder what kind of social effect there will be for like young kids having to wear masks this frequently for this long. If there's going to be, are they going to be? I mean, very young kids are going to be very shy. Are they going to be bad at picking up on social cues because of this, that kind of thing.
That is part of your intellectual and emotional development as a child, is reading social cues and learning how to give social cues. Kids also talk more quietly than grown-ups do, and so it's difficult for teachers just literally to hear what
it's
some of the
difficult for me to hear. I
quieter
have trouble understanding people in masks some of the time.
Right, and those are grown-ups who've been practicing this their whole lives. These are kids who are learning how to communicate.
Right.
So yeah, so if they do take the shot, like, give them a break.
Yeah.
And also, like, kids who are like 5 now have been wearing masks since they were 3. Like most of their lives that they remember, because you don't remember much before 3, even by the time you're 5 or 6.
It's not good.
So the thing they remember in life is walking around with a mask.
Yeah.
So in other news, as shoppers gear up for the holidays, a new Deloitte LLP report finds that the number of Americans who say they plan to spend nothing this season has hit a 10-year record, with lower-income Americans making up 2/3 of that group. This comes as new polling from Morning Consult finds that voters across the political spectrum are increasingly worried about the U.S. economy and blame President Biden for the nation's current inflation woes. The survey found that voters are 11 points more likely to say the economy will worsen in the next year compared to what they said in a July poll. And in a new Politico Morning Consult poll, 62% of voters said the Biden administration's policies are either somewhat or very responsible for increasing inflation. That includes roughly 4 in 10 Democrats, 6 in 10 independents, and 85% of Republicans. And so this goes back to kind of an iron law of politics that whoever is the president gets the credit or the blame for what's going on, despite the fact that we know that really isn't the case.
Right.
Like this is something. If Trump were still in office, if Obama were in office, if FDR were in office right now, this is the result of 40 years of globalization, added on top of that a pandemic, which then cracks these supply chains, which has led to higher prices. Like there's really nothing that you could do in a period of a couple of months. You could see as the economy was going to open back up, people were predicting this was going to happen. We predicted on the show this was going to happen. It happened. It's obvious. But he's the president, and also Republicans are making it a very targeted message that this like tax and spend liberal, driving up inflation, and it's going to stick to some degree. What do you think the political consequences of this are?
Yeah, I mean, we're so polarized that it's hard. There's small shifts, right? Because the amount of persuadable people or people who are willing to change their mind about anything is very small nowadays. I do think the Republicans are wise, and this is not totally incorrect at all. That the Trump economy they talk about, it was a good time before the pandemic and that's not solely Trump's doing, or that's building of policies, but it was good.
I think he does deserve a significant amount of credit for allowing Mnuchin to talk him in to putting Jerome Powell at the Fed. And Trump was right to jawbone the Fed and tell them to keep interest rates low, to keep unemployment low. Like he was right about that. And Democrats for years had caved to the Fed and said, oh, you think that we can't get below this 5% or whatever you call the natural rate of unemployment, and you need to raise interest rates like Janet Yellen did in 2014. They were comfortable with that. Right. That threw a lot of people
default to the experts.
Right.
What could go wrong?
And it threw a lot of people out of work, and it might have cost them the Senate.
Yeah.
Which might have cost them a Supreme Court seat.
Yeah.
So yes. So I'm just agreeing with you that he deserves some credit, for that particular decision.
Yeah, and people. And the pandemic, no one is at fault for the pandemic. Well, maybe someone in the Chinese government, but not, and maybe EcoHealth Alliance, I don't know. But broadly speaking, this is
it wasn't Biden
or Trump. No, this just happened. And it killed Trump's reelection effort, I think. But now on the other side of it, it's hurting that this is enduring longer than we had hoped. That's hurting the economic recovery, which ends up hurting Biden. So some of this is just, like you said, unavoidable. But some of it is policy, and you need to shift policy if you need to fix it, so it'll be fixed like a couple of years from now when Biden still hopes to be president.
Right, and we'll see. I don't necessarily see this as something that can be fixed in a matter of a couple months before the midterms. Now, energy prices fly up and down.
Right.
You could easily see gas at in the $2 or in the $5 a year from now. Like that is somewhat disconnected from the broader supply chain questions of how many crates there are lined up outside of Long Beach a year from now. But that system could be buckled for years to come, which means that a Republican president at some point will be getting blamed. And as climate catastrophe continues to wreak havoc around the world, that's going to continue to undermine supply chains as well. So we might be looking at a new normal here.
Yeah, well, I'm feeling the pain. Tried to order elements for a Halloween costume, and it's all massively delayed. Not even going to get here by Halloween.
Yeah, too late to be ordering that Halloween costume this year. This is not 2020.
No, we're all struggling. Okay, we'll tell you what's on our radars. Stay with us for that.
What were you going to be?
I'm gonna unveil that in a future episode.
Okay, excellent.
Stay with us.